This is the notes for lesson 1.1, integer operations. We will be discussing how to add and subtract integers. Integers are positive numbers, negative numbers, and zero. The rules are listed on your notes and here on this page. I would prefer that you would please, on a separate sheet of paper or somewhere in your notes section, copy these rules down. If both the numbers have the same sign, you add the numbers. If both the numbers have different signs, you subtract the numbers, and you always keep the sign of the larger number. If you need to pause the video to write this down, please do so. Okay, let's look at what this means. The first thing I need to clarify for you is, what does the sign of the number mean? The sign to the left of the number tells you whether the number is positive or negative. This sign right here does not tell you to add these two numbers. If you remember back to our rules, we know to add if both numbers have the same sign. And also, this right here does not mean subtract these two numbers. It tells you that the 20 is negative. Now, this may be a little confusing because your 4 is positive, your 20 is negative, so you are going to subtract. But this subtraction sign right here does not tell you to subtract. So, let's go ahead and do a couple of examples. The first thing I need to know is, what is the sign of my 15? Is it positive or negative? It is positive because there's no sign to the left. What is the sign of my 17? Is it positive or negative? It is positive. So both of my numbers are positive. What does the rule say? If both have the same sign, what do? We add the numbers. So I'm going to add the numbers. A very common question I get is, how do I show my work when I add numbers? This is how you do it. You're going to write these numbers down just like you normally would, and then we're going to add them together. 7 plus 5 is 12. 1, 2, 3. So my answer is 32. So then I put equals 32, and I circle the 32. Now, the last part of the process is always keep the sign of the larger number. 17 is larger. 17 is positive, so my answer is positive. If your answer is positive, you do not need to put a plus sign in front of it. Let's look at number 2. Number 2 has a negative 12. Then you see a plus minus 10. You cannot have two signs together. You have to simplify that and make it one sign. When you have two signs together, they have to change to one sign. A plus and a minus makes this sign a minus. So I'm going to have negative 12 minus 10. So I'm going to rewrite it. And this is what I want you to do also. Negative 12 minus 10. This is showing my work. Now, in order to follow the rules, I need to know, is my 12 negative or positive? It's negative. What is my 10? Is my 10 negative or positive? It's negative. So do my numbers have the same sign or different signs? They have the same sign, so what do? I add. So, in order to show my work, I go 12 plus 10, because I'm adding. 2 plus 0 is 2. 1 plus 1 is 2. My answer, when I combine my numbers, is 22. However, I must keep the sign of the larger number. 12 is larger. It's negative. So this has to be negative 22, and then I circle my answer. Okay? So you have to get rid of the double signs first. So number 3, you will get rid of the double sign. Plus minus makes a minus. So this is going to be 7 minus 12. My 7 is positive. My 12 is negative. So what is the rule when your numbers have two different signs? When they have different signs, we subtract. So I'm going to subtract just like my grade school math teacher taught me. Big number on top minus little number on bottom. That's going to be 5. If you really want to show your work, you'll borrow from here, make that 0, make that 12, and that'll be 5. So this equals 5. Now, which one is bigger, 7 or 12? 12 is bigger, so I have to put a negative sign in front of my 5 and circle my answer. Okay? The next problem we're going to look at is number 5. Number 5 has 3 numbers. You cannot add 3 numbers at the same time unless you have a calculator. We're not using a calculator. So I'm going to take the first 2 numbers and combine them. So this is 4 minus 20. I'm not going to highlight it anymore because you're going to have to get used to it. If you want to highlight the numbers, go ahead. But my 4 is positive, my 20 is negative. That means I'm going to subtract. Big number on top, little number on bottom. 20 minus 4 is 16. Then I go back to the original problem. My 20 is negative, so what does my answer have to be? That's right. My answer has to be negative 16. So now I rewrite the whole problem. Negative 16, and then I bring down my plus 6 equals. These have different signs, negative 16 plus 6. So I subtract 16 minus 6, big number on top. 16 minus 6 is 10. Go back to the original problem. My 16 is negative, so my 16 is larger and it's negative, so my answer has to be negative. Okay? When you do number 6, please remember to do the negative signs first. The ones we did not cover in the notes, you are still responsible for doing. Okay, another situation that that comes up is when you have to subtract a negative number. You cannot have 2 signs together. You have to convert that to 1 sign. Now, we said a plus and a minus sign equals a minus, so a minus and a minus sign equals a plus. 2 negative signs make a plus. This is 10 plus 5, which is 15. So we're going to try only a few examples. I'm going to go to example number 11, and then you'll be responsible for doing the rest of these on your own, using the same rules we started with. So the first thing we're going to look at is this double negative right here. Always want to get rid of your double negatives first, okay? 2 negatives make a plus. So I'm going to rewrite this problem. I'm not just going to cover this up with a plus sign, okay? I'm not just going to convert this to a plus. I want to rewrite it. Why would I rewrite it? Because it just looks neater, and I want you to show your work. I want to see what you're thinking. So this becomes 3 plus 10 minus 6. Now we're going to take the 3 plus 10. Both of these numbers are positive. So I'm going to add them. 3 plus 10 is 13. Then I rewrite the negative 6. I don't skip steps. Now I have a positive 13 minus 6. Now this gets a little tougher. Maybe you can't do it in your head. That's okay. So we're going to come over here. We're going to go 13 minus 6. 13 minus 6, borrow from here. This is 7. So my answer is 7. Which number is bigger? That's right, the 13. It's positive, so my answer is positive 7. Okay? Now we're going to talk about multiplication. A lot of times the rules for multiplication and addition are confused. Please, please, please remember these rules. If the 2 numbers that you're multiplying have the same sign, the answer is always positive. If the 2 numbers you're multiplying have different signs, the answer is always negative. So the rule is very similar to adding and subtracting, except now we're talking about the answer. This is what this says here. Positive times positive is positive. Negative times negative is a positive. Positive times negative is negative. The rules for dividing are exactly the same. Okay, if you would, please pause the video, and I want you to write this down on a separate sheet of paper or somewhere in your notes. You can pause the video. It just basically discusses the rules that I just went over. Okay, now, let's go ahead and look at this with doing a couple of problems. My 2 numbers here, are these both positive or both negative? That's right, they're both positive, so my answer is going to be positive. 4 times 3 is 12, I circle my answer. Number 2, negative times positive, so my answer is going to be negative. That's all this tells us, is what the answer is, positive or negative. 5 times 10 is 50. Number 3, both of these are negative, so my answer is going to be positive. 5 times 10 is 50. Okay? You can do the rest on your own. Okay, division is the exact same thing. Now, these are both positive, so my answer is going to be positive. 20 divided by 4 is, how many times does 20 go into 4? I'm sorry, how many times does 4 go into 20? 5. 36 divided by 6, 6. They're both positive, so my answer is positive. This is the tricky one. How many of you think that this answer is a positive 4? That would be wrong. 40 goes into 10. This reduces, this is 10 divided by 40. This reduces to, I did it wrong. This reduces to 1/4, 1 over 4. Okay, and they're both negative, so your answer is positive. And please remember to circle your answers. Okay. With a fraction, if the big number is on bottom, you cannot have an integer. This cannot equal 4 because the big number is on bottom. Okay. Okay, here are some more for you to try. Let's go down to number 15. How am I going to do number 15? Well, the first thing you have to do is you have to simplify the top. So, we're going to take this 6 times negative 2. Is my answer going to be positive or negative? That's right, it's going to be negative. 6 times negative 2 is going to give me a negative answer. It's going to give me a negative 12 times negative 2. Notice how I just did the first step. I didn't go 6 times 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. That's a very easy thing to do to not make a lot of mistakes. Do it slow, one step at a time, and rewrite it. Put this over negative 4. Now, negative 12 times negative 2. Negative 12 times negative 2, my answer is going to be positive. It's going to be positive 24. Now, my negative 4 still stays on bottom. Notice how I did this, one step at a time. I wrote everything out as I did it. Now, 24 divided by 4. Can the bottom number go into the top number evenly? Yes. How many times is 4 going to 24? 6. So, that's going to make my top number 6. My bottom number is going to be 1, because 4 goes into 4 one time. And then my bottom number was negative. I have a negative over a positive, so this answer is negative. But another way to write negative 6 over 1 is to simply write it as negative 6. Okay? So, again, let's look at that again. I simplified the top. Well, this time the top is already simplified. 2 stays 2. 4 times negative 3 is negative 12 times negative 1. So then I have 2. Negative 12 times negative 1 is positive 12. Now, how many times can 12 go into 2 evenly? No. So I can reduce this fraction, but it's not going to be an integer. What number goes into both 12 and 2 evenly? Well, the answer is 2. 2 goes into 2 one time. 2 goes into 12 6 times. So my answer is 1 over 6. Both numbers are positive, so my answer is positive. Okay, that's 1.1 lesson. If you have any questions, please feel free to come and see me before or after school. Have a good day.